The US and Canada is kind of the place where Black Friday kind of originated. So talk me through what kind of happens in the airline world on Black Friday.
Yeah, so the airline world on Black Friday ends up being the busiest time for any airline to sell the most seats. They kind of do a really good job of capitalizing on that demand that there was in the summer. People seeing people on social media going out to Italy or anywhere to Europe or anywhere in Asia and saying, okay, you saw that. Here's Black Friday. Now you can do it yourself. And so because of those connections that people make, Black Friday ends up being the biggest sale, especially right before the holidays. It ends up working really well for that. And it just ends up being a lot of travel that's in the off season, so not as much in the peak season. So a lot of the times, if you're trying to get a trip out in February, March, or April, the best time to buy tickets will usually be Black Friday, because airlines are trying to, again, capitalize on that. You've seen other people travel, you know what it's like. And so now you can do it yourself, but for a little cheaper than everyone else, because it's not the peak summer dates that we know can often be a lot more expensive. So there is very much a connection, and people know, hey, Black Friday's here. I can get the best prices. Because of that, airlines capitalize on that too. They know that this is the moment that everyone's expecting to be able to book travel, so they lower those prices a good amount to get you in the air. So it is a really exciting time. It works for both the U.S. and Canada. So yeah.
Do you feel like that's accurate though? If they assume or we're assuming it's going to be as cheap as it'll go, is it actually as cheap as it'll go? Or do they kind of play into that and they're like, we actually don't have to lower it that much because they're going to buy it regardless since it's labeled a Black Friday sale?
That's a really good question. And it varies by airline to airline. So I would say, generally speaking, within the major North American airlines, their prices are pretty standard. Now, when I say standard, I don't mean like every other time of the year. I mean, like, these are standard sale good prices, right? So like, they're still good deals, and you should feel good if you book any of them and you say, hey, I'm going to take this trip. I'm so excited to go. But they're not the lowest price we've ever seen. That is usually more of a one-off, something like an airfare that does pop up here and there. For European airlines, it's a bit more hit or miss. So this would be for airlines that fly from the US or Canada to Europe. So for example, I can give to like SAS and TAP Air Portugal. They run a lot of sales, and their Black Friday sales are usually very, very strong. Like even typically a little lower than previous sale prices and around where we expect Black Friday to fall for them. And so they end up being some of the cheapest ways possible to fly to Europe for any part of the year. So it really, as like I said, it varies by airline and it varies by where you're trying to go. But there is certainly a level of like, people are expecting to book now, so they don't lower as much as you might want. But that doesn't mean there aren't still good deals to be found, because there absolutely are.
Have you noticed if there's been any changes in like the airline world or with airlines or travel trends since last year that you're kind of interested to see how they'll play out this year?
Yeah. Something that's been really interesting, and this has been, I guess, more over 2 years than over one, is especially domestically within the US, Spirit has stopped being as much of a player. It has a lot to do with their bankruptcy, and they just don't have the money and the planes to fly as much anymore. But because of that, they were a big factor in lowering prices. So they had super low prices themselves. That caused Frontier to compete with them, and it also, in some ways, caused American, Delta, United, JetBlue to compete with them as well. Because Spirit's not really there anymore, the prices have generally been a little higher than we were expecting. So we're hopeful that for Black Friday, there were like that, and the new growth of Southwest is the other big airline that's like changed a lot in the last few years. We're hopeful that will actually bring those prices back down. So that's been a big change. And then the other one that I want to say for Canada specifically is that most airlines within Canada have now moved into a ultra basic model, meaning no carry-on included, no seat selection, no anything. And it hasn't reflected as much in the prices as we were hoping. It's gone down for sure, quite a little bit, but not as much as you would expect from the lack of service. So we're hopeful that those airlines will finally, like, because they've all followed suit with each other, that those prices actually start to lower. And so we actually see those like, hey, you can get across the country for 80 Canadian dollars. And that's not what we're seeing right now.
That's a pipe dream for sure right now.
Exactly. We're waiting.
It's good for backpackers, at least.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, that's a conversation we often have, like just amongst my friends, even that travel. It's like, why, like, you want to explore Canada, you want to explore your own country, but when flights are sometimes cheaper to go overseas, like, how do you justify it?
Yeah, it ends up being crazy. Like some of the routes we've covered, I don't even know, like Vancouver to Montreal, and it ends up being like 350 Canadian dollars. It's like, that's insane. comparatively. Like you can go for 350, you can go down to like Mexico, and it's like, how are we talking about this? Like you would just doesn't make any sense. So we're waiting for that trend to finally shift, or maybe one airline comes back and offers that another carry-on included to get more goodwill there, because there is, as we've also seen, which is another thing I was going to mention, there's an increase in more luxury, quote unquote, travel, more people willing to pay a little more for higher quality of service, be that, more bags included or literally just a nicer experience on the plane. So we're hopeful that there's more airlines that sort of take that note and start offering more of that.
Do you find that the majority of sales happen on Black Friday, like a one and done sale? Or is it similar to the UK where airlines come in like in the week before, do early bird sales, that kind of thing?
It's more of the latter. It's more airlines going with the early birds. So we typically see sales launch the Friday before Black Friday. So they'll usually have a full week to collect everything, or the Monday before the Friday. So either way, there's a full week for more for sales to come through, for people to actually make the purchase, which is good because it means that you have more flexibility. If you see something on the Friday that you like, you're not sure if you want to buy it yet, but by Wednesday you know you do, then it's still there. There's less impulse necessary. It's more, this is something I actually want to do. That being said, there are airlines that do different things on different days. Spirit was one that would always do like a different promotion every day. JetBlue does it as well. And that's basically, sometimes some days it'll be discounted airfare, other days it'll be credit card points, or maybe it'll be like a hotel package thing. So there is some like chance there because of it. I can't really think off the top of my head of any airlines that have offered 1 day sales only on Black Friday. It usually does end up being the whole week, or they launch at some point within. And then there have been some more 1 day sales for like Cyber Monday. So the Monday after, there are more that will do like then in the Tuesday, and that's just about it. So we've had a couple instances where we're a little bummed that this airline we were expecting didn't have anything on Black Friday, and then it turns out they have a really nice Cyber Monday sale.
So Cyber Monday is a thing, and Travel
Absolutely.
Tuesday.
Some airlines have said Travel Tuesday. I still think it's more Cyber Monday than Travel Tuesday, but you should always keep an eye out for the Tuesday as well. I can't remember of any sales that have launched on Travel Tuesday that have actually been worth covering.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually just an extension of the Cyber Monday or whatever came before.
I feel like we're adding each day of the week as the years go on, and Wednesday will be next. I'm not sure what they're going to label it, but
Wild
Wednesday.
Yeah. What sales are you personally looking out for, Alan, if any, for yourself?
So I always like to look at the three major American airlines, with United, American, and Delta. Honestly, I'm more loyal to Delta than any of the three, mostly just because I think their quality of service on the plane is nicer, and their prices are about the same as American. So I'm hopeful that they have some really good fares. I fly pretty frequently I'm here in New York, and I fly pretty frequently to Miami. So I'm always looking at the fares there. So I will try and pre-book some flights then. I like to go, especially when it gets cold up here in New York, go back home to Miami for a bit. So that's one. There are a couple over to Europe that I've been waiting to cross off a list, but it hasn't quite happened yet. So honestly, just about anywhere. I mean, I've been to Europe a couple times already, so I've seen most of the big spots, but nowhere in particular that is jumping out to me at the moment, although Eastern Europe is always calling. And then I'm really excited to see what Avianca and Copa have. They're two of the cheaper options to get down to Latin America from the US and Canada. Avianca, especially because they don't offer a carry-on bag, although that does make Copa a better deal because they often do. But yeah, I've been wanting to cross Argentina and Brazil and Chile off my list forever, and I've yet to make it down there. I've been to Colombia and Peru. So I want to keep going and expand there. So those are the big ones. Avianca and Copa to get you over, to get you down south. And then for Europe, yeah, there's any host of airlines I'm always watching. But as I said earlier, SAS, TAP Air Portugal offered really good sales. Norse is really good for nonstops and very, very cheap nonstops. And they now include a carry-on, which is really nice. So maybe that's, ends up being a weekend break at some point in February if the price is really, really good.
So that's us looking forward. But if we look backwards, do you have any deals that, you still think about before you go to bed at night, and you're like, these were some of the best Black Friday deals we've ever seen?
My immediate thought for the best Black Friday deal we've ever seen was, I think it's been run the last 2 years, actually. It's Air Tahiti Nui, which is the airline that obviously flies through Tahiti. They have nonstop flights to LA and Seattle within the United States. And they've offered an around the world pass. And how that works is basically you pay an upfront cost that takes you literally around the world. So you go from LA to Tahiti, then it'd be maybe Tahiti from there to Tokyo, and from Tokyo over to Europe somewhere. And they would have it with all their code sharing partners. And you could end up doing this whole around the world trip for, I think, around $1,500. And I believe you could also space it out across the year. So it wouldn't have to be like all in one fell swoop. You could do the different trips at different times. And it just ends up being a really, really good bargain, especially if you're the type of traveler who likes to do a kind of crazy out of the box trip like that and not just, there and back. So that's a really fun one. And I think they did it. They've done it in 2023 and 2024. So I'm hopeful that comes back in 2025 and they, can use even more of their partner network there. And that's definitely the one that stands out the most. There have been a couple other ones that are just like really, really good prices. Especially I remember one year Southwest just had like a bunch of fares at $77 round trip across the US. I'm hoping that comes back too. So those are kind of the very, very cheap domestics, and then they're really interesting around the world.
And then what does this look like for you and your team, Allan? Like, how do these deals from the airlines end up in the hands of Jack's Flight Club members?
Every year is a little different, but I think for this year, we're going to do a pretty similar system to last year, which is we will always have a list of basically every airline in the world. Some of the airlines are a little redundant. We're not really expecting sales from some of them, but we like to check and make sure. And at least twice a day, someone will go through that spreadsheet and say, okay, has Austrian Airlines launched one? Has American Airlines launched one, a sale? And if the answer is yes, we'll usually send it in our groups and say, hey, is this one worth covering? Someone will investigate and say, yes, this is one of the better sales we've seen, or no, this one's not that interesting. Honestly, most of them end up being not that interesting because airlines are a little scared to take risks and actually lower their prices to a good level. But the ones that are interesting, we'll usually say, okay, now let's actually do this. We'll cover this one. So we end up doing, I want to say something like 35 to 40 flights from the US. And then from Canada, it'll probably be around 20 over the course of the week. Those are pretty high numbers for us during the course of a week, but we really have like a system built where one of us will set up the deal. So in terms of like on our back end, setting, making sure everything looks correctly, making sure the prices are right, making sure you're getting the best possible numbers there. And then the other person will actually write the deal. So we'll have the little introduction that explains, hey, this is why this one's good. This is why we think it's a deal. And this is when and why you should book it, basically. So it's a bit of a conveyor belt where we'll have multiple people doing multiple roles, someone checking, someone setting up, and someone writing. And then it all kind of works together to make sure that everyone gets all the possible flights they can. So we're excited for it this year. It's kind of our most stressful time, but in some ways it's our most rewarding time because you finish the day and you're like, wow, I really did a lot today. I really have helped people fulfill their travel dreams.
Yeah, I bet. And I feel like as a traveler, you're getting probably hundreds of emails over Black Friday, over the holiday season in general about sales and deals. So this can really help kind of filter out, like we were saying earlier, what is a good deal or what's just being labeled as a Black Friday deal.
Exactly. We cut through the fluff and we tell you, hey, this one, it's just okay. We're still sending it because it might be a major airline that you're expecting to see. But the other ones, hey, this is a real deal. I know it's not an airline you might have heard of, or maybe an airline that you've traveled on, but this is the best deal you'll find if you're trying to get to Europe or to Asia or anything like that. So it's that sort of editorial angle that I feel like a lot of other sales, we're not just marketing, we are showing you why something matters.